guys, welcome to Devotionals again today. I am excited to share with you one of my favorite games that I love to play with anybody, with my kids. It's just fun, it's simple, is checkers. Have you ever played checkers before? Well, it's a pretty simple game, but it still takes some strategy. And it's great when you can become the king in the game, and you can go either way, and you can jump people all kinds of ways. And the goal is to gather as many of the other person's stuff so that they have none, and then you're the winner, right? Well, so how does checkers and the Bible go together? Well, I want to share with you from the book of 1 Samuel. Chapter 24. We're going to start in verse 1 and we're going to end in verse 7. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a background before we jump into that scripture. And it's, if you think of David, so David who killed Goliath, he could play amazing music. He became great friends with Jonathan, who was King Saul's son. Then King Saul became very, very jealous of David and actually tried to find ways to kill him. So I'm going to share part of that story with you in this scripture from chapter 24, starting in verse 1. And it says, after Saul returned from pursuing the Philistines, he was told, David is in the desert of En-Gedi. So Saul took 3,000 chosen men from all Israel and set out to look for David and his men near the crags of the wild goats. He came to the sheep pens along the way. A cave was there, and Saul went in to relieve himself. David and his men were far back in the cave. The men said, "This is the day the Lord spoke of when he said to you, I will give your enemy into your hands for you to deal with as you wish." Then David crept up unnoticed and cut off the corner of Saul's robe. Afterward, David was conscience-stricken for having cut off the corner of his robe, and he said to his men, "The Lord forbid that I should do such a thing to my master, the Lord's anointed, or lift my hand against him, for he is the anointed of the Lord." With these words, David rebuked his men and did not allow them to attack Saul. And Saul left the cave and went his way. So at the time, Saul was king. Saul was looking for David. He was hunting him down. David had the opportunity, while he was in that cave with Saul, to take him down. He could have taken him out right then, and then David could have become king. But David knew in his heart that it was not the time. And he actually even felt bad for doing what he did do in that time. And he told all of the men, all of the soldiers that were with him, don't touch Saul. Saul is God's anointed king. And so what does that tell us? How does that help us to think? Well, if you think of the game of checkers, right? When you become king, you get to jump other people. You get to do things that other people can't do. And what David wasn't willing to jump ahead of God's plan to get what he wanted. And that's what we have to remember. God has a plan for us. Sometimes we want to get there faster than God plans for us to get there. But we have to remember that God's plan is better than our plan. And so we need to remember to be like David and wait for God's timing. That's hard. That's hard. Some of you will say, well, I want this right now, or I want life to be like this right now, or I wish things were, right now we're in this whole pandemic and you're stuck in different things and you can't go to work like you normally do, or you can't be around as many people as you like to do, or maybe you're still not going to church like you want to do, all of those things, and you're saying, I want it now. We need to remember that God uses everything for his good. And in times like these, we can say, God, teach me, show me, help me to learn. What do I need to do right now? And God will lead you, and He will show you, and He will give you all the things that you need to do His will, just like David did.